In this video, we're going to talk about torches, tanks, and tips. These are all tools that you're going to use in the soldering and brazing process. So let's do a little review of what you may have already read about or what you may already know about soldering. Soldering is a process used to join piping and tubing to fittings. It's primarily used in plumbing and heating systems using copper and brass piping and fittings. Soldering is often called soft soldering. It's done at temperatures under 800 degrees, usually between 361 and 500 degrees, someplace in that range. So this is not excessive heat, okay? Again, we're talking under 800 degrees. Brazing requires a much higher temperature. Brazing is over 800 degrees Fahrenheit and is often called silver brazing. It's similar to soldering, by that it's being used to join tubing and piping in air conditioning and refrigeration systems. The higher temperatures are required due to the different combination of alloys used in the filler materials. Okay, again, so when we look at temperature range, okay, 500 degrees, soft soldering, 1205 to 1550 would be your brazing temperature range. So you can see the large difference in temperature between the soldering and the brazing. Soldering, lower pressures, fluids, and stuff like that. Brazing, the higher pressures of air conditioning and refrigeration. When two lengths of tubings are joined, the fitting or coupling can be placed between them into which each pipe slides. A clearance is required for the tubing to slide into the coupling or fitting. Filler metal must be used to fill this clearance. The filler metal actually adheres to the tubing and the fitting to be joined as it fills the gap. Only the filler metal melts. That's the alloy that we're using with the brazing and soldering. So again, two fittings here. Okay, we use our filler metal in the center. Okay, that's the solder in this case. And then you have the base metal, which is the piping. Okay. This is just an example of what we call capillary action. Okay, you take a small filler metal and it actually gets pulled into the small hole. Almost like you can pull water up a straw without putting any suction on the straw. Propane, butane, acetylene, and oxyacetylene torches are the most commonly used sources of heat when soldering or brazing. A propane or butane torch can be ignited easily and adjusted to the type and size of the joint being soldered, and the various tips are available. Acetylene Torch Kit is by far the most frequent one you're going to see. It consists of a pressurized tank of acetylene, an acetylene regulator, a hose, and a torch handle or a torch tip. Various size tips are available. When attaching the hose connection, the red hose is attached to the acetylene regulator with left-handed threads. The green hose is attached to the oxygen regulator, okay, with right-handed thread. The torch body is then attached to the hoses, and the appropriate tip goes to the torch. Okay, this is an acetylene kit. It's a little bit squatted down just to get the picture on here. Notice it's chained to a cart, okay, and the regulator and everything is mounted on the torch. This is an oxyacetylene kit, a little bit different. In this case, we have the tank of oxygen, and we have two hoses going to the torch. Be sure all the connections are free from dirt, dust, grease, and oil. Oxygen can produce an explosion when in contact with grease or oil. A reverse flow valve should be used when somewhere in the hose. These valves allow the gas to flow in one direction only, preventing the two gases from being mixed in the hose. So when we look at an oxyacetylene torch, again, we don't want the acetylene to flow backwards into the oxygen hose, and we don't want the oxygen to flow backwards in the acetylene hose. So the reverse flow valves allows the flow of only one direction. And that's a tremendous safety thing because we don't want the oxygen and the acetylene mixing together in either one of the hoses because it becomes an explosion hazard. One direction of flow only.